Hey everybody, today I want to talk about 5 habits that I've seen very commonly practiced amongst people that are healthy. People that are just well, they're fit, they've had good nutrition, they've had a decent body composition most of their life, or someone that's maybe just been healthy for 5 or 6 years. And why I want to talk about this is because the issue that we're dealing with in our country today is not how quickly someone can lose some weight or get healthy in the short term, but the long term impact of staying healthy. People can lose weight. People can muster up some motivation to shed some pounds over 5 or 6 weeks, or a month or 2 or 3 months or 6 months. But the issue at hand in this country is not a weight loss issue. It's a keeping the weight off issue. And for most people, that might not even, health might not even mean losing weight. It just might be improving their diet and things like that, and a quality standpoint. But 5 habits that I've seen practiced very commonly amongst healthy people, people like my parents, people like myself, people like athletes that I run with, and just getting and observing and observing an eye for the past couple of years as I've been passionate about nutrition. What have I seen from people, experts out there, functional medicine, athletes, family, friends, all these types of things? What are some common themes that I see amongst these people, and why they are sustaining their health over a long period of time and in a sustainable way? So number one is they follow a method that they feel is easiest for them. And what I mean by that is becoming healthy and staying healthy is a sacrifice, especially in today's world with so many delicious foods, with processed foods everywhere, with very high calorie, low volume, addictive foods that aren't properly, our bodies can't really tell that we are getting that much energy, and they don't turn off the hunger signals, or they don't tell you that you're full, and so many times people just end up overeating these types of food. And so what I mean is they follow a nutrition method that they find easiest for them. And what I'm trying to say here is being healthy is a sacrifice. Just like anything meaningful in life, it's going to require some kind of sacrifice. Might sacrifice your time, or short-term pleasures for long-term enjoyments. And so what I see commonly amongst a lot of people that are healthy over 5, 10, 20, 30, or their entire life period of time is that they practice a method that they find sustainable. I follow a lot of experts out in the industry, and one of them, Stan Efferding, he's a world bodybuilder. He's been in the industry of losing weight, gaining strength, putting on muscle, all that kind of stuff. And he said at the end of the day, compliance is the science. And so what he means by that is something might look great on paper. There's 50, probably 100 diets out there that you could find that look great on paper. But what matters is, can you sustainably do that, practice that diet on a daily basis, and enjoy it? So much unique part of us humans is not only are we creatures that need to eat and satiate ourselves and nourish ourselves with food, but we also need to find something that's satisfying. We're unique creatures that have a psychological impact when it comes to food and satisfaction and enjoyments, and each one of us have different types of foods that we love and things like that. And so we have to find some kind of nutrition protocol that's sustainable for us. And so what I mean by protocol is, for some people that might be following a specific diet, a plant-based diet, a low-carb diet, a paleo diet, a Mediterranean diet. Finding a kind of group, a diet that follows some principles that's going to lead to long-term health, and provide you with nourishing food and things like that. So at the end of the day, these people they practice self-awareness and finding a method of nutrition that they find sustainable and enjoyable. And like I said, they all realize there's a sacrifice to be made. You can't just eat all the junk food you want, regardless of how how many calories it has or whatever, and expect to you know, do that. And so what's nutrition methods? It might mean diets, might be following a vegan diet, might be following a carnivore diet, might be following a low carb diet, a ketogenic diet. There's so many different things out there, methods of eating. For others, it might be intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding, something I practice and have been for the past couple of years. I find it enjoyable. I find black and white rules for me are better than perfect moderation. I think black and white are just kind of easier to follow, black and white rules, rather than like this perfect moderation, just because I think there's not really such thing as perfect moderation when these very tasty foods are designed to make you not have a moderate amount, usually way too much. So for me, it might be, or for someone else, it might be intermittent fasting, going 16 to 20 hours a day, or anywhere between there, 14 to 18 hours or something like that, of just doing water, and then doing a restricted eating window. And for me, that means I don't really put on extra sacrifices when it comes to, I don't cut out food groups or things like that. But for some, it might be cutting out a food groups like diets. For some, it might be cutting out macronutrients, which is similar to diets. Going low fat, high carb, going high protein, cutting fats low, or keeping fats high, or keeping there's so many different ways of doing that. Number two, so everybody that I've seen practice healthy wellness and nutrition over long periods of time, is they are self-aware. They pick a method that they could follow 365 days a year if they need to, and they can enjoy it. Number two, they plan their meals. I think this is such an important thing, regardless of what you're following, regardless of the situation you are in life, whether you're in the workplace, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're an older person. These people are planning their meals, and I think this is such an important one because from experience, I think our appetite, once it comes in, it can usually just be like a bulldozer and take things out. If we just kind of I'm gonna let my appetite kind of run its course or do what it does, it's gonna lead you to reach into the pantry for junk food and cutting out, going for the junk food, and then it's gonna throw off your day, and you might skip a meal, and then you're not getting a good nutrient dense high protein meal. And so I think planning their meals is such an important thing. When I started taking this into my own hands a couple of years ago, when I started taking nutrition more seriously, I felt like the most progress I was making was when I was planning my meals, and not just going off on a whim every day and saying, oh, I don't know what I'm going to eat today, but I'll just let my, appetite run its course. And as a runner, I'm just, super duper hungry, and I can get cravings very quickly. And if I don't have something planned, like, I'm going to do this for dinner, some steak or some chicken or some salmon with veggies and, this carbohydrate or whatever, like, you're just going to kind of let your appetite run its course and just bulldoze over everything. I think when we let our appetite get too crazy, we just do things that aren't really towards our goals, like that we want to achieve. Number three, they're self-aware of what hinders their goals. And so what I mean by that is each one of us have triggers or maybe past experiences with seasons of our lives that we felt like we were unhealthy for a short period of time, long period of time. And they're self-aware of what went on during that period of time. Maybe in a season of life, they're dealing with external issues in their life, and they found themselves snacking all the time. They just made a habit of snacking, of going into the pantry at 3 o'clock or at 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. between these meal windows, and just reaching for something processed to fill something they want. That's usually just boredom or some kind of emotion. So they're very mindful of what triggers them. For people that overeat, they're mindful of, I'm overeating on these chips or this cereal or these sweets or this dessert or this drink. And so I think they're gonna realize that, your environment needs to work for you, not against you. So the best method of going about this is removing these triggers from your environment. It doesn't need to be 100% of the time, but removing these triggers for the most of the time, so that they're not fighting the willpower every single day to deal with something. And often when you remove something, it's good to replace it. If you remove unhealthy snacks, fill it with fruits and vegetables, or if you're removing some kind of processed part of your dinner or your lunch or whatever, fill it with something that's still going to satiate you, that's going to fill up your stomach with good nutrients and things like that. So they're aware of what hinders their progress. Number 4, they're patient, and they realize the long-term enjoyment of being healthy outweighs the short-term pleasures of feeling good, of getting that dopamine rush when you just go in all in on the ice cream or the cookies or the any kind of processed food, junk food, that's often going to lead to you over consuming calories. And so nutrition, health, wellness, fitness, all these different things, personal growth in general, it's not an overnight thing. You're not going to achieve the weight you want, or the skin you want, or the energy levels you want 2 or 3 days into making a shift, even if it's a drastic shift. And so people that know, that have had sustained long-term health, they realize the long-term enjoyment, it's been a few years for them, or decades, or whatever, and they know that feeling good outweighs developing habits that are short-term pleasure habits. I love this quote I once heard, I think it's relevant to whether you're 20 years old and you're an athlete, whether you're 40 years old and you have a family, or you're 70 years old. I think this quote is just great, and I forgot who said it, but they said nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And so what they're trying to reiterate at is, they're not trying to say you can't have anything tasty. They're just saying, you feel the long-term enjoyment of feeling healthy and not developing these habits of just over consuming these pleasurable foods. It just, nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. Feeling healthy, you get to feel it 24/7. Short-term pleasure of gorging yourself on some kind of food might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour with some friends, but then you're going to pay those dividends tomorrow morning, or a week from then, or 2 or 3 days from then, when the consequences roll in. And so they're patient. They understand the long-term enjoyment of staying healthy outweighs the short-term pleasures of just letting their appetite ravage their health. And number 5, this one's really important. Kind of a lot of these go off self-awareness, but they realize that their behaviors around them affect their nutrition. This is such an important one for me as an athlete. I realized the behaviors I practice outside of just nutrition affects my appetite. If I'm not hydrated, if I'm just being lazy on hydrating my body during the day, that's going to affect my appetite. My appetite's going to drive me, to make unwise decisions potentially. There's sleep. There's so much research out there. If you're getting 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, that's affecting your appetite. And if you could just tighten up your day, learn some time management, personally take in some responsibility on, where am I wasting my time, and grab that extra hour of sleep, or grab that extra 2 hours of sleep, that's going to pay off long-term enjoyment in the future, when you're not just getting your appetite or your cravings or stuff like that the next day are just kicking you super hard at work and keeping you distracted, or during your day at school or work or wherever. So they realize that their behaviors that they need to practice outside of nutrition, hydration, sleep, I think having a purpose is so important. Loving the career, the calling that you have, finding things that bring pleasure, that bring enjoyment, that aren't just food. And I think that's where relationships are such an important part of our lives, is where we find enjoyment, fulfillment, and purpose when we're in relationship with other people. And so I think if we just realize there's things outside of nutrition that can bring pleasure, and we don't need to always just emotionally eat, and we can practice mindfulness and think of ways, hobbies and things like that, that are going to affect just our health and our enjoyment and our satisfaction in life. And we always have to turn to that pleasurable food. So I know that was kind of long, guys. I apologize for the length, but I'm just going to run through it really quickly again. Just the quick 5 things I think happy people that are usually healthy are happier. Healthy people practice. And so number 1, they follow a nutrition method that they feel is easiest to follow. They realize you have to make a sacrifice, and they realize, there's different sacrifices they make. Each one of us makes, and so they're going to find a sacrifice that they feel is sustainable. Remember, compliance is the science. The best diet is the one that you will follow. And we're all on a diet regardless of whether you think you're on a diet or not. A diet is just simply, if you took a day of your eating, what does that look like? Does it look like a standard American diet, or does it look like a Whole Foods diet? So they follow a nutrition method that they find easiest to follow. They plan their meals. They're self-aware of what hinders their goals and what may trigger things that are going to push them off the path of wise nutrition. They're patient. They value the long-term enjoyment of being healthy over the short-term pleasures of going all in on junk food and overeating. And they realize that the behaviors around them, the environment that they're in, affects their nutrition, their sleep, their hydration, their relationships, their work. They wisely and strategically go about their day so that they know, if I practice these things outside of my health, it's going to continue to propel me towards good health and wise nutrition habits. And I'm not going to feel like I'm just at war with my willpower every single moment of the day, fighting hunger and things like that. So this is long. I hope you guys found the value to it, and I'll see you next time.